Sometimes I'm an ass and I light things on fire. It's usually 'cause I'm hot or I'm hungry or I'm tired. But anytime I look into your eyes, well, I'm suddenly twice the size. Put the guitar up a little bit. I think you're full of shit.
Welcome everyone, here we are back again with some unboxing of one of my favorite sort of troops on a map cooperative game. My name is Michael Walker. My pledge just came in for Uprising, Curse of the Last Emperor. This one is called Titans of the First Age. Super turbo sort of explanation about how this game works is that you have chaos that comes in from the outside trying to get to the Imperial that's trying to get out. And unfortunately, all of the players are trapped in the middle. And so everyone is getting victory points, and at the end of the game, the players must have more victory points than the chaos and the Imperial. To do this, you're going to go through a bunch of turns. You're going to be spending action points, recruiting armies, fighting, rolling lots of dice. And that's one of the little bugbears about the game, is there's a little bit of randomness in the cards that you flip up to tell you what kind of curses you have or Imperials you're going to get. and lots of luck in the dice. There's going to be some stuff in this new expansion that's going to fix this randomness a little bit, but we'll get into that in a minute. It's got this great sort of phase track that, you know, will bring you through all the phases of the game. Keep it trucking along. The dog has found something. All right. I think the best way is just to get into it. We've got a couple of decks of new cards. They've brought a whole ally deck to add to each faction, so there's more player interaction. And so there's the main game came with 4 factions, and then the first Kickstarter came with another 4, and each faction has 2 leaders. So that's 8 leaders right off the hop. And those leaders have their own sort of action deck, sort of buffs that are going to help you throughout the game. And these are going to be new cards to add to that to increase player interaction. We also got some faction trays. We've got some new curse tokens. So this is like, it's all acrylic standees. But in this second pledge, they've got some new stuff. So we'll look at that. So I guess the best thing is just to get into it. We've got some free, if you pledge some free dice trays, and if you pledged early enough, you got some free dice. Dice weren't a huge problem. The only issue with the dice was that you had to pass them around a lot. You never actually ran out of dice, but you know, with when you have a bunch of players, you had to pass the dice around a lot. But now, with this new dice pack, that will not be an issue. How's everyone doing out there? We got some new Druid cards. The Imperials start. This whole map would be covered with train hexes, and then there's a whole sort of list on how those different terrains affect battle. And so you have to explore them, and then you can sort of manipulate their movement because they have sort of an AI that dictates how they move. So you can sort of game them into certain areas that are going to give you an advantage, and so therefore help, you know, the randomness of the dice. So nice dice tray. You might not be able to see it. Will come up on this. There's sort of an embossed logo for one of the factions. And I'm just going to throw these dice in here. So this dice sort of helps with making all the different units different, because some units will be rolling different types of dice, which will give you more hits or more magic or more shields, and every unit will tell you what kind of dice they roll. And same with the enemy, makes all the enemies that much more interesting because they all have a different mix of dice. And it also works into the trains as well. Some trains make some dice useless, and that's how that works. Get into those in a minute. I think the best thing to do is just get right into the main expansion, and then we'll open up the extra stuff after the fact. So here we go. In here we have 2 new factions, which means 2 leaders for each. I believe one of the factions is just straight up 2 leaders. There's also all sorts of more stuff to make it more difficult. I don't know why people would want to do that. I feel it's hard enough already. But there you go. So this is what sort of the hexes look like that will cover the map. Like I said, the Imperial one will now have 3 different ones that you can pick that will change how the Imperial works. Looks like there's some other ones that you can just add to the decks to make it more difficult, more resources, but we got a deluxe resource kit that will look at that, so I guess I didn't need. The game also comes with all of these very nice, automatically comes with all of these nice little cases, but I grabbed that out to show you, but since it has some resources on it, I didn't really need to get that out. Alright. All the rule books are spiral bound, which makes it easy to have it on the table when you need them. Lots of art. There's at the back of this, there's about 8 pages of story, which is kind of neat for those who that are interested in that kind of thing. Tons of double page art, lots of extra stuff, story, and all the rules for the new stuff that is in this expansion. Then we have some bags. These bags are for some chips, which are modifiers for all of the enemies that you spawn during the game. And so now you can draw out a chip that will make them more powerful. Once again, why would you do this? So one for Chaos and one for the Imperial. This is for the new currency that I was telling you about that will allow you to re-roll dice. More cards. Open those up. And here are the two new factions. So, like I said, one is just two giant heroes. They interact with these new poker chips that you put in these bags. They like devour them, and they devour whole hexes. So that's like, it's completely different. And so you place the hexes that you've devoured there. These are the pirates. And this is sort of standard. Do I have, keep it handy, sort of handy, yes. So here's what would be a standard player board, all the different kinds of units you can have, all of the actions you take. You get like sort of 8 crystals that you take during your turn, and all of the different actions you take a certain amount of crystals, the different bases you can build. And so very similar to a standard one. 3 different units, lots of different rules with the pirates. They don't have any of these sort of havens that all of the other factions start with. Instead, they have these cool blade ships, because as you can see on the map, not that now I have it completely, hey Sherbaka, I have it completely covered in boxes, but the whole thing is sort of ice. The whole thing sort of represents like the whole, death of society is happening, and everyone's like sort of picking a side. All right, let's get this over here before it all falls apart. All right. So yeah, so they have these really cool blade ships that run on skates. So that would be fun. And then so they move around, so they have sort of like moving bases. So looking forward to trying those out. And these are the same sort of inserts that come in every game and expansion. So there's like a whole faction would fit into one, all of the cards and things that they would need, and you hand them out. But unfortunately, now the game will be 3 or more boxes, which is not right. So that being said, the producers of the game said their next Kickstarter or their next campaign is going to have a big box. So we can hope, because this was definitely all going to be pitched today if I didn't get that message. Because like I said, 2 boxes is terrible, 3 boxes unforgivable. All right, let's just take a quick look at these cards. So you're flipping these giant cards whenever you have to summon big enemies, and they'll tell you their stats. This is just rules for the new advanced capitals that I was talking about. And then they have special scenario, new druid cards. Here we are. So there are 4 druid cards on the outside of the game board, and the old rules were you flip up 1 every time it tells you to in the turn phase, and they give you bonuses, new ways you can spend magic and stuff. Now we are going to have these giant cards that cover this whole area, and they start the game face up, and they generate these new crystals, which I'll dig out in a moment. And you can spend these crystals to either re-roll your dice or use them for these abilities here. So that will be something new. And because of that, they cover up all of your information that you need here. So what they've done is printed them on cards instead. So that's amazing. So new cards for the charts. Some new quest cards, probably to do with some of the new elite dice and stuff. Yes, so elite dice, which are in here, which I'll get over in a minute. So new cards to go in the quest deck, because there's always 4 available quests every turn that you can go on that give you more benefits in certain terrains and more stuff, victory points, and great system as well. It gives you that feel of what was it called, the Fantasy Flight one where all your armies are fighting, and you're sending your heroes out on missions, because it lets you roll a bunch of dice, and depending on how many of these slots that you get successes in, you can get all of them or one, and it'll tell you over here, like in this case, you need to succeed in all 3 of those blocks. So you need to roll at least 3 skulls, a shield, and a magic, or else you fail, which I've not seen before. Difficulty 3 quests. All right, so new quests, new legions. So this is what I said what a legion card would normally look like. As they take wounds, they go down in difficulty and they start rolling less dice. And these new star dice are something new, which I'll show you, like I said, in a moment. So new Imperial Legion, new Chaos Horde. So there's 2 cards. That's funny, on the forums they said they are misprints, but you can see, because it's to mess you up, of course, because you need things more difficult. So even though it says Imperial Legion on the back, it is really a Chaos card. It's the shapeshifter, so he's hiding. So you think you're going to get an Imperial guy, but then it is a Chaos, and then you're in trouble. And then there is the same thing for the Chaos Horde. It is the Juggernaut. Yeah. So that's going to be fun. Here is cards for the new leaders. So these are the pirate leaders, and you can see they start with a certain amount of dice. These are the dice you roll to when you're going to go on those quests to try to get those symbols. And here is the leader card for the new faction, where you just use giant. I guess in this case you just use 1, seeing as it's a double-sided card. I'm sure they're not going to expect you to flip it back and forth. Thought I read that. Going to have to give it a reread. What else do we have here? New events. I can show you one of those. Oh, there's not much on it. But they get increasingly harder, so, you know, more quests, lots more quests, more Imperial Legions. Who do we have? The Warlock, Spy Master, Executioner. I'll have to take a look and see. I don't remember them saying that. This is a Legion card that already exists. I'll have to see why, if that's a reprint or what that's all about. More Horde cards. Coven, same thing. These are all cards that exist already. Maybe they just incorporate the new rules or something. I'll take a look. Quests, Druid cards, Druid cards. All right, that is all the cards. Let's take a look at this first one that I pulled out. Here are the special dice. So the deal with these, were they in here? Wonder if it's, they're nice enough to give you new charts here, but in the main game they give you a chart of all the dice and their new faces. But with, now that they have added more dice, you'd think they would add a new card that had the new dice. They did not, at least not that I see right off the hop. Alright, so let's take a look at them. I like these so far. We got some double shields, lots more shields, which is nice. And then they have this new symbol, which is a star. So in the case of an enemy rolling a star, they get almost every symbol. And then in case of the good guys rolling the star, you get your choice of symbol. So that is cool. More dice and 3 different levels of those. Alright, what else is there? There's the crystals I was talking about that you spend for your actions. I think they just added more, so every box could have their own. And then here are the fancy gems that are double-sided. Bizarre. I have never seen that before. So they are silver on one side and amethyst, brownish, coppery on the other. So weird. So really interesting looking. So yes, so you're going to place these on the Druid cards and they will allow you to get rerolls. Then we had victory point markers for 2 new factions. Not overly exciting there. And then a giant handful of cards. Let's just crack these open and see if there's anything super interesting in here. I think at the same time, since we're opening small cards, we'll open up the 2 extra packs that I got over here for small cards too. So, like I said, there's new mercenaries you can hire as well. So around the map there are these ice towers, and they're sort of like teleportation towers. So it helps you teleport around the map quicker to help your allies out. And so now at those towers, there'll be mercenaries you can hire. So a whole deck of cards that you'll be able to flip up and hire mercenaries. There's the the front, and then they all tell you which mercenary you're hiring and the abilities they have. Also, for those that don't listen, we are going to be playing this Saturday. How much of this stuff we're going to incorporate, I am unsure. So a few new items, and then like I said, every hero has their own deck. So here's the Mother of the Night deck. And you draw, there's cards in here that will say from the beginning. So you usually get 2 cards right from the beginning, and then every turn you get to flip up a new one. There are, plus or minus some abilities that let you. So yes, there's a faction that just has a single figure. That will be interesting. Alright, so you play one or the other. Mother of Night or Father of Thunder. They're feet decks, I believe they're called. And then we have the 2 decks for the pirates. And then we have even more item cards. And then we have maybe some reprinted druid cards, which now I'll have to look into, and looks like some maybe reprinted cards from the base game for whatever reason, which once again I will have to look into. Alright, like I said, since we're on a small card kick here, let's look at these 2 decks. So this is an armory deck that they put out in the first Kickstarter, so it just buffs up your item deck. So you have a market over here. One of the actions you can take is go to the market to buy items, and you can have a total of 10 cards in front of you, items and feats total. And so these are just going to add more interesting items to your deck. A lot of them are based on those stats I was showing you, like the starting stats that you use to go on quests. They'll say you have to have a certain level to use some of these items. So there's some that just up your stats, which is interesting. I'm not going to go into all of these, but there's some mounts in here that look interesting. The art, love the art in this game. Let's just grab that one that had the mount. Probably not an actual mount, but it would be cool if it was. Cards like this. Flip this, use the trade action for 0 cost. So you get to buy another item for 0 cost. And then over here, like I said, here's the cost. It costs 1 crystal, and you have to have at least a guile of 2. He says with a question mark. It is guile, I believe. Alright, so that's that. Tons of new items. Then we have this. This is new from this campaign, which is the Allies of Azul. And these are the cards that I believe are just straight up leader cards that you start the game with. There's supposed to be 1 for every hero. So that means there should be 8, 9, 10. No, sorry. 8, 9, 10 times 2, 20 cards, yeah. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Yep. Oh, and there's the rules. I looked online. I couldn't find. So a rule card that goes with them. The Allies of Azul card pack brings any feat you start the game. Hold on. Any ally feat that you start the game with at the beginning of the game. Yes. So you start with these right at the beginning. And they all do different things that will help you give more interaction with the other players. I have not had a chance to look through all these, but that will be interesting to try out. because a lot of times either you do really well and clear up your area, and then sometimes it's just too far. You haven't controlled a tower to teleport over to help your friend, or it'd just be too many actions to get over there. It's a lot of sort of gambling, because unfortunately every time you explore a tile, you want to do that so you can expand your area out, but every time you flip a tile, usually something bad happens, like spawns there or makes the game more difficult. Alright, let's get moving. So here are the Bane tokens I was talking about from the curse player. You'll throw these in this bag, and then every time you spawn a chaos, you'll put this on their card and it'll give them a benefit. This also interacts with the gods that you can play, these two giant purple, the Mother of Night and the Father of Thunder, that they can eat these Banes to get special powers. Let's throw those right in there, because that's where they belong. Here are the new Chaos ones with the Shapeshifter and the Unsister. Interesting, Unsister. And the Shapeshifter, like I said, who is in the actual Imperial deck. Super fun. Alright, two new. And then they all slot into these acrylic sort of stands, and so they are cool. Alright, what have we got left in this box? We have the Pirates. So in here you'll have, oh man, those are kind of cool. No, these are that was a lie. These are all the mercenaries. So you have cool mercenaries like this that will most units just roll one die each. So these units that roll star dice are going to be pretty amazing. So these look like they all roll all sorts of different dice, and it might be a pain. So it's going to be much like when you flip up a Chaos or an Imperial guy. It's like, okay, where's their figure so we can put it on the board. So all of them are different. All of them are going to be kind of interesting. I don't know how would you approach this thing exactly? Oh, I see. There's a person riding it. That's how you would approach. I was going to say, you just sort of offer it some fish and it comes to join you. All right, yes, this is going to be cool. There is unfortunately a limit to how many figures you can have in a space, so that will limit it, but it'll change it up every time because there's only going to be 4 different mercenaries every game. I'll have to reread it just to make sure. All of their stands and their chips. Sorry, they have a bag of chips as well, because you'll put these tokens on all the sea towers to remind you to spawn mercenaries. And last from this main box is we have the Imperial Bane tokens, all the different bonuses that they will get. They can drop right into the bag. And these gems I will put right into their bag before they get knocked into oblivion or the cat comes by and decides it wants to eat them. Here are what the acrylic standees look like for the Imperial faction. We have the new Crimson Shield. He looks pretty sweet. Or they look pretty sweet. And the Imperial Juggernaut, who is in the Chaos deck. Because, remember, any questions, feel free to type them in. Stands for those two. And then the new pirate faction. So here are the blade ships that replace the havens for normal factions. They're pretty cool. So they'll be sailing around the board, and they get to spawn their troops from the ships, which will probably help them with picking up the mercenaries, which I think is sort of the idea. And then they all have, and the other interesting part is that they give them all certain bases to tell you whether or not they're elite or regular. Because some rules pertain, cannot be used on elite forces, or a lot of the bad cards, of course, say, must devour an elite unit. So we have some guys that roll purple. So 3 different units. I'll just get one of each because almost every army has 3 different units. This one only has 2. Oh, I see, because they needed a stat for the ship. All right. Do I have that close? I do. Ah, yeah. So one of the slots is the blade ship, so it can zoom in and do some damage. And then there's the 2 units. Usually they have 3 units, but unfortunately this faction only has 2. So they'll have the Raiders and the Shark Scald. Raiders rolling orange, which isn't terrible, and the Shark Scald, which rolls purple, which are like sort of heavy on the magic dice. Lots of those. That's that done. That is that box done. All right, let's grab the next box. Let's see what we have here. Let's do, what am I most excited about? The faction trays. So let's do those last. This is the Deluxe Components. So I showed you the cardboard sheet. We have Plunder, which I always forget the name of. I don't believe I remember it this time. We have Plunder, we have Food, and we have Crystals. 3 different types of resources, and depending on the terrain types that you take over, your main base usually gives you 1 of each, but depending on what you do, you're going to get more. If your leaders are in the same space, you can trade. These are going to give us fancy deluxe ones. It looks like we have a fancy first player marker in here as well, and some stuff for the interesting faction called the Horde, because remember I said there were limits to how much you could put in a space. In the Horde, you can just put 1 standee, and then you have a side card where you can just have this giant group of guys. Unfortunately, you only get 1 for the whole board, but still kind of interesting. And these are, so yes, this is something we've never played with. Was cardboard in the main game, so now they give you giant placards. These are just things to make it even more difficult. One side is German, the other side is English. So you have stuff like this. Every player places 1 skeleton on a hex adjacent to their home hex with a curse if possible. And why is that bad? You say, well, skeletons are easy to kill. Yeah, but then it's like a pandemic problem. If you ever get 3 skeletons in an area, then you remove them and you spawn a chaos beast, and then that's bad. So this is not to do with the Horde. This is a new chapter tracker, which is interesting. So giant tracker was this sort of like U-shaped thing that you could slide down. I'm not sure if this is going to be worse or better, but it is. Oh no, chapter tracker. Why would you have to track which chapter you're on? Anyway, that's that. This could be the new, maybe, phase tracker. Giant metal coin. If they're only more plastic, yes. Agreed, Shabaka. Lots of plastic, unfortunately. What are you going to do? All right. What have we got in here? So these are poker chips for the Imperial. Interesting. So how the Imperial works is when you draw them, I'm going to say 9, it's supposed to, they spawn in the center, and then you put a sort of target. They'll be like going for a particular haven, which is the name for everyone's home base. So they select a target, and then for the rest of the game, they try to get to that target until they're destroyed. And they are paper in the main box, so now we have some nice clunky chips. I say that, but usually they have some special ability that totally negates the common. It's like, no, they actually spawn directly in a haven, and then they move across to it anyway. That's cool. Nice chunky poker chips for that. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's crazy. So the other thing that happens is that there's a phase of the game that all of the Chaos and Imperial giant monsters get an activation token. It says put an activation token on all of the big baddies. And then, of course, because we want to make things harder, there's all sorts of bad things that can happen that will add more activation tokens. So in the main game, they are just cardboard. So now we have these like metal tokens. The cardboard's colored. These are all the same color, so I don't know. I really like the metal coins, and they're double-sided. So one is for the Chaos, and the other side is for the Imperial. So that's kind of cool. Wonder if I give them like a wash or something. All right, from Shabaka. Well, at least there aren't a CMON amount of mins, and the game does look very. It is very interesting. So if you can pop by on Saturday, you can see how it works. I love it. That's all I can say. So not much to show here. I showed you like the paper tokens that we had over here. These are just thick deluxe wooden tokens. So for crystals, for food, and for plunder. So just more resources, poker chips. That is the what they call Deluxe Components. All right. I'm scared about how long this box is and how much room they're going to take up. Let us hope that there's packing or something in here. Because as they are, that will not even fit in a regular box. So that means if they do a big box, it'll have to be at least this long on one of the sides, because, you know, why do a big box if it's not going to fit everything in it? All right. So for whatever reason, I'm second interested in this, because, like I said, beginning of the game, the board starts with a bunch of these curses all over the outside. There's a bunch of hexes that have X's in them. This will lead to one of the end game conditions, like a loss condition. If you can't put any more of these out, every time a chaos monster activates, it puts out one of these tentacles. So instead of having the acrylic standees, they put out a line of miniatures, and they are supposedly pre-painted. This is interesting for two reasons. One, I'm going to get back into painting. I've ordered some painting supplies and stuff, so I'm looking forward to maybe touching these up a little to make them pop even more. But maybe they're painted enough. Somehow I think it's very like too colory, but we'll see. Let's see what we got here. And you see the images on you know, the group, but you never know. You never know how big they're going to be. So these look amazing. Like I said, if I might be able to, from first glance, I might touch them up with a little bit of pink and stuff. Let's see if I can get. Of course, it's green. You will see nothing in the green screen. Nothing for you. It's a ghost tentacle. All right, let's see if we can put it up here. So there we go. Yeah, it's not too bad. So that's what they look like. This is to replace these. Here is the original being replaced by these. Pre-painted, yes. And use a translucent plastic on the bottom, so it will look very nice on the board. Man, they do look good on the board. Look at that. Wow. So yeah, like I said, I might touch up just the suction cups with a little bit of pink to make them pop, and they do have some spikes along the side here that I probably will just touch up just to make them more than just the two colors that they are. Wow. Those are cool. All right. Last box, and then we can bring this to a close. What have we got here? These are the deluxe faction trays. I'm a sucker for stuff. And when you say I can improve my table area, well, I'm sorry, I can't help myself. What was this? Oh, I think that this came in the Deluxe Components. It is more than likely a bag for those giant, these wooden tokens here probably go in this new bag. I'm sorry. There we go. Put that there. We have not ever tried that expansion because, like I said, I think it's hard enough. And then, unfortunately, a lot of times we're always introducing. Yes, just right, just so Shabaka, just like washing them up a bit is going to make them pop. I think. Just giving a little bit of wash, and then, like I said, just giving them a little bit of highlights on this stuff to make them extra chaosy and scary. Oh, they go the full lengths. All right. So, there should be 4 in here. I'm not going to pull all 4 out. I will pull out 1. They are gigantic. Maybe too big. All right. So every player has one of these in front of them because this game doesn't take up enough space on the table. Then you'll take your player board. I feel embarrassed that I got these now. You'll take your player board and it will fit ever so nicely into here. Then you have a tray for your resources over here, which they could have maybe put at the front and made them. Then you will take your feet deck and it will go here. And then the feats that you have got at the beginning of the game and drawn during the game will go nicely in this little card slot. And your main leader that you have chosen will go. Give me a leader. Of course. This is not very important, but I want to make it, the whole. Mr. Jimbo has decided to join us finally. How is Jimbo? Here we go. Here's a leader card. So then you will put your leader that you have chosen for this game. Nya.
Oh, we have trays now?
Faction boards, Jimbo. Look how big they are.
And these are our chosen perks?
These are the feats that we have picked. And items. Our items can go there as well. All right, well.
I like these quite a bit. The resource tokens.
Have you even looked at these yet? The new.
They're terrible, awful. I don't know why you'd ever. These are amazing. Look at these.
All right, I won't go over everything with you because we are now done. I'll go over everything with you once we have stopped. So that's everything. Come back on Saturday. We are playing this on Saturday. How much of this new stuff we're going to incorporate, I am unsure. We will make choices. More than likely, we're going to play the 2 new factions. Jimbo really might like the God one, and I would play the Pirate one in a drop of a hat because it is new. And Mercenaries just seem cool, so more than likely they will be there. As for the stuff that makes it harder, Banes, maybe, because if someone takes the Gods, it's best to have the Banes. But anyway, we won't go into stuff that we don't know about. Thank you everyone watching. Check out the links that have been popping up. They will take you to our website where you can listen to our podcast. I do unboxings when I think they'll be interesting, and this definitely was. We mostly stream every Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern. Come check us out. Thank you, Shabaka. Thank you, everyone, for else that was watching. See you on Saturday.